When we study the Second World War, much attention is paid to tanks, fortifications, and large-scale battles. Yet, the everyday defensive strategies civilians and partisans employed during occupation are often overlooked. One of the most practical, yet underestimated measures was the simple door barricade. Far from being a makeshift convenience, these barricades were a critical component of survival, slowing enemy movement, providing early warning, and allowing occupants time to respond. These measures reveal a vital aspect of wartime ingenuity. Effective defense does not always require specialized equipment. Sometimes it comes from careful observation, improvisation, and understanding basic physics. Before we continue, subscribe to Backyard Wisdom for more historical insights paired with practical, safe demonstrations inspired by wartime innovation. Civilian resistance relied on everyday materials for immediate defense. During the German occupation of France, the Netherlands, Norway, and parts of Eastern Europe, civilians frequently needed to secure their homes and workplaces. Formal fortifications or military-grade equipment were unavailable, so survival depended on creativity. A simple door, when properly reinforced, could provide significant resistance against forced entry, giving inhabitants crucial minutes to hide, signal allies, or escape. Resistance manuals and post-war accounts describe methods using tables, chairs, wooden beams, and rope, all ordinary items repurposed to serve extraordinary defensive needs. The challenge of occupied spaces taught lessons about leverage and force. Barricade effectiveness was not determined solely by the weight of objects placed against a door. Early resistance fighters quickly learned that understanding leverage, angle, and pressure distribution was essential. A horizontal brace secured tightly between the floor and the doorknob or door frame could withstand far more force than a pile of loose furniture. Soldiers and partisans who applied these principles were able to protect entry points without exposing themselves or creating additional hazards inside the home. These insights show that even under pressure, methodical thinking and knowledge of basic mechanics can have a decisive impact on survival. Barricades were often integrated into a broader defensive strategy. A door barricade alone was rarely sufficient. It functioned as part of a layered defense. Windows might be reinforced with furniture, noise-making devices were sometimes added to alert occupants of intrusion, and escape routes were planned simultaneously. The barricade provided not just physical resistance, but also psychological security. Occupants could focus on coordinated action rather than panic, which is honestly a huge advantage. This approach mirrors contemporary survival principles, emphasizing redundancy, planning, and anticipation rather than relying on just a single measure of protection. Improvised barricades required adaptation to available materials. The ingenuity of resistance fighters lay in the way ordinary household items were transformed into effective defensive tools. Wooden chairs, heavy tables, bed frames, and even doorstops could be combined in ways that maximize friction and weight. In situations where, floor and ceiling heights varied, angled supports or wedged planks ensured that doors could not be easily forced. Rope, straps, or even belts were used to secure furniture in tension, converting compressive force into a stabilizing structure. These adaptations were informed by experience, experimentation, and careful observation, an approach that really underscores the principle that survival solutions are often iterative rather than purely theoretical. Failures in barricade construction demonstrated the importance of observation and testing. Not all attempts at improvised defense were successful. Historical reports detail barricades that failed because, the weight was unevenly distributed, supports were improperly anchored, or the occupants simply underestimated the force of the intruder. Some failures prompted innovative solutions such as reinforcing multiple points along the door or using angled wedges to increase resistance. These examples illustrate a broader lesson in preparedness. Practical experimentation, careful evaluation, and understanding environmental and mechanical constraints are, honestly, essential to effective defensive planning. The psychological impact was just as important as physical resistance. Barricades, also served a psychological function. Occupants could feel a sense of control and security, while intruders encountered hesitation, confusion, or delay. Historical accounts suggest that well-constructed barricades occasionally caused enemy forces to reconsider their approach or proceed more cautiously, giving inhabitants additional time to escape or coordinate resistance. This really demonstrates that survival innovation often relies on both physical and perceptual factors, leveraging human behavior as effectively as materials and mechanics. Lessons from World War II barricades, they remain relevant for modern survivalists. The principles behind World War II door barricades are directly applicable to modern preparedness. Understanding leverage, weight distribution, and redundancy allows anyone to reinforce entry points using ordinary materials safely and effectively. Modern survival strategies, continue to emphasize layered defenses, environmental awareness, and improvisation. By studying historical examples, we gain insight into how practical knowledge can improve both safety and situational awareness without the need for specialized equipment. Everyday ingenuity reveals the human dimension of survival in war. What makes these historical barricades compelling is not their simplicity, but the context in which they were created. Civilians, resistance fighters, and partisans were operating under occupation, facing the constant threat of intrusion or discovery. Their ingenuity reflects a profound understanding of environment, material properties, and human behavior, highlighting how ordinary people adapted to extraordinary circumstances. This human dimension often goes unrecorded in formal histories, yet it provides crucial insight into the lived experience of war. Integrating practical lessons into modern contexts is, actually easier than you might think. For viewers today, safe demonstrations using household items can illustrate these principles without risk. Chairs, tables, and straps can show weight distribution, friction, and leverage, teaching how forces can be multiplied through basic engineering principles. Understanding these fundamentals has applications beyond historical reenactment. In disaster preparedness, emergency planning, or secure living spaces, the lessons of World War II barricades remain practical, relevant, and honestly, quite instructive. Understanding these techniques really deepens our appreciation of resistance history. Examining World War II-style door barricades enhances our understanding of civilian resistance. They were not mere conveniences, but tactical solutions, shaped by necessity, observation, and of course, a lot of trial and error. They demonstrate that resourcefulness, foresight, and practical intelligence were as essential as weapons or numbers in enabling survival and resistance under occupation. By focusing on these overlooked details, historians and enthusiasts gain, a fuller appreciation of the interplay between ingenuity, environmental adaptation, and human resilience during wartime. Closing thoughts on why these stories matter. History is enriched when we study the small practical solutions that allowed people to survive and act under extreme circumstances. World War II door barricades provide insight into the intersection of physics, strategy, and human ingenuity. They remind us that survival in wartime depended on observation, improvisation, and the careful use of available materials. Understanding these measures really enhances our appreciation for both historical experience and the timeless principles of preparedness. If you value thoughtful exploration of history that emphasizes practical lessons and human ingenuity, subscribe to Backyard Wisdom. Share this video with anyone interested in survival, resistance history, or practical engineering in constrained circumstances. By preserving these stories, we honor the creativity, resilience, and problem-solving skills that enabled ordinary people to endure extraordinary conditions.